Hello. This is what I do. I make myself laugh. Sad. Hello friends, this is Miro and welcome to my channel. Well, thank you for joining, and today we have a new video and I don't think you would ever guess what the video is about. Can you tell? Okay, I understand. This begonia, it's misleading. I forgot it here.
You can't sit with us!
Today I wanted to talk about Hoyas and keep driving that fast and that loud, honestly. Traffic is so inconsiderate. Shockingly, today I wanted to talk more about Hoyas, but this video will not be information packed like the previous ones. And today I'm just gonna show you some of my Hoyas with smaller leaves. I was thinking about making a foliage type video about Hoyas, and I was thinking to make a video about affordable Hoyas with splash on the leaves or with silver leaves, some of the ones that I have in my collection and that you don't have to pay an entire fortune to get. But Bonnie suggested that I should make a video about small-leaved Hoyas, and I liked that idea quite a lot, and I will explain to you why I liked the idea. First, when I started to think about this video, I thought, I don't have so many Hoyas with smaller leaves, but then I took them out and yeah, I have a couple. You will see that I kinda had a problem deciding where the small stops and the big starts, which doesn't sound that good, but in terms of the leaf size. And I think with a couple of them, we are moving towards the medium size category. Nothing sounds very good there, does it? But we will just first start with the smallest one with the smallest size. Hoya. How do I grab you? Also, a disclaimer, I cleaned all the leaves for you, which is something I never do. So there is no residue for cumulus, which I use to spray for spider mites. I don't have spider mites at the moment, which is great, but I did want to do a preventative treatment, just in case. What I want to say with this is that some of the leaves will be wet, that is why, and maybe some of the leaves are not cleaned the best. Well, that's just because I didn't do a very good job. First Hoya that I want to show you is Hoya serpens. This is a cutting from my original Hoya serpens. This cutting is about less than a year old. I think actually now it turned 1 year. When I gifted this cutting to my friend, it was about this size, so it was quite tiny, and all of this growth is 1 year worth of growth. It is just potted in regular mix of cocoa peat, bark, and perlite. And what my friend did is she followed all of my instructions not to let it go dry, to make sure that it's evenly moist, and it did great. Now let's see the original plant. Not so great, right? This is my original plant. Basically, summer happened and I happened. I used to grow this Hoya in a hanging basket, and let me tell you something about me and hanging baskets. We don't go together well. This Hoya was fine throughout the winter and spring of 2019 and early in 2020, and then I decided to hang it above my window, and it did get a good amount of light there, but what it didn't get is a good amount of water. And Hoya serpens is not a very forgiving Hoya. It's not difficult Hoya to grow, and I had this, I think she returned this to me in January, so I've had this for a couple of months and it was fine. It grows really well, and that's because this time I put it on my Hoya shelf and I made sure to water it frequently. This one is in semi-hydro and it actually recovered when I put it in semi-hydro. There is a lot of new growth in this Hoya serpens, so I'm sure it will recover, it will do really well. But not a good candidate, in my opinion, for a hanging basket if you are a bit neglectful. This Hoya does not want to be neglected. She will not forgive you. It will take a very long time for this Hoya to forgive you, or at least that has been my experience, and she doesn't really love the summer anyways, but yeah, the original one and what my friend did. The reason why my friend returned this cutting is she got a dog, the cutest, the most adorable dog, and she couldn't just take care of the plants anymore. So Hoya serpens, and this is, I think, the smallest foliage in Hoya that I have. It's not the smallest foliage in all Hoyas, of course, but I think it's the smallest one that I have. The second Hoya I want to show you is my Hoya curtisii. I got this Hoya in July of 2020, and it was just a tiny cutting this size as well. It was very easy to root, and it's a very easy Hoya to grow. Now it resides in my grow tent that I got from the planet Mars. Great! Under Mars grow light, and it's doing quite well. It's not under a lot of light, and it's continuing to grow. I'm really surprised by how fast this Hoya grows. Very, very easy for me to grow. I know that some people have issues with it. In my experience, it doesn't want to completely dry out. I keep it in a mix of just cocoa peat and perlite, and really, no fuss at all. You are so adorable. Doesn't make me look better, does it? This is another Hoya that grows in my grow tent, and I'm gonna mention the name under which I got this Hoya. Previously I called it something else, but I'm just going to mention the name under which I acquired it. When it blooms, we will re-examine the situation. We will see what this plant actually is. I got it under the name Hoya odorata. It is just a beautiful Hoya. Under stronger light, the leaves get a bit red. They're kind of red when they're small, then they fade to this brownish green, and eventually they do fade to green, like darker green here. It's quite a fast grower. I had it since also, I think, July. This is the original cutting, so all of this is new growth. It's not as fast as Hoya curtisii, but it does quite well. I keep it just in ceramis, and you can see it has quite a lot of roots. I don't know how difficult this is to flower. Some people say it's very easy to flower. I think it's too small to flower at this size, but nevertheless quite a fun and easy Hoya to grow. It kind of grows upright, so I think at one point I will need to add a trellis or maybe some type of a stake, but I don't think this is not a Hoya that twines or vines or falls down. So I think this is more, it has more of that shrub-like appearance, kind of like Hoya polynera or Hoya lobii. Next Hoya that I want to show you is actually in bloom, and it's one of my favorite Hoyas. This is Hoya lacunosa. I grew this one from two cuttings. This is one of the cuttings, and it has slightly lighter foliage. This one has slightly darker foliage. I'm not quite sure why they are under the same condition, but this one was always lighter and this one was always slightly darker. I was a bit disappointed this morning when I wanted to record the video because it had buds here that just dropped. It was in bloom for a couple of days, but then I discovered I actually have more flowers here and somewhere else. Here they are, hiding. One peduncle did drop, couple of buds there, and I think there are a couple of more peduncles. This Hoya is very easy to bloom. If you keep it well hydrated, then it will not blast the flowers, but sometimes I do forget because this pot has holes, and now I'm kind of using it as a cache pot, but it doesn't really work, does it? So it gets slightly less water than this plant would like. But anyways, Hoya lacunosa is lovely. This is really one of my favorite Hoyas. It's so easy to grow. I think the flowers are gorgeous. They smell wonderfully to me. If I had to compare the smell to something, I would compare it maybe to hyacinth. It has that spring flower smell to it. It's quite lovely. Another plant that I want to show you is, I think, a lacunosa with silver leaf. My friend says that it could be a chuniana because I think she got it under that name, or I'm not quite sure. I got a cutting from my friend, but I don't think it's chuniana. I will show you the plant, and it did something quite spectacular. You will see what. I showed this plant before. This is, I believe, Hoya lacunosa with silver leaf. When it was under a lower light, it pushed out larger leaves. The original leaves were kind of heart-shaped like this one, but I put it in my tent, in my grow tent on the second level of the shelf, which isn't a lot of light, and the leaves are starting to come out white, the new leaves. The baby leaves are white with a baby pink tint to it. You can see one of them here and a couple of them here. Honestly, I think this level of cuteness should be illegal. It is adorable. I'm really wondering what this leaf will look like when it fully matures. My guess is that it will be fully silver, like these. Some of them do have a bit of green, and that was under slightly lower light, but now under higher light they are fully silver. So we will see. I cannot wait to see the update, the maturement, not a word. And actually, if you have this plant and if you get white/baby pink leaves, leave a comment down below and tell me what they will look like, because I cannot wait to see. Absolutely adorable. That's gonna be edited out. Another small-leaved Hoya is Hoya stoneana, and I also got it from the same friend. It is pushing out a new vine here, and it has a new growth point here. So this is the original cutting. I think this leaf grew in my care, and now I'm so happy to see that it has more growth. It did struggle a bit in the beginning, and that was because I wasn't giving it enough water. But now, as I'm making sure that it stays hydrated, I can see that it is taking off. This Hoya is supposed to have a lovely white flower, and that is why I wanted it. I adore white flowers. I think they're possibly my favorite. Maybe pinkish flowers and Hoyas are also nice, even though I don't really like pink flowers, but if I had to choose pink versus white, I would choose the white ones. This is another Hoya I got from Sweden, from Camilla. This is Hoya endauensis. And this Hoya, in the beginning, didn't do anything. It grew a couple of leaves, and I think these couple of leaves and this vine, but the tip died back and nothing else happened. Now it does have a more established root system, but it pushed out now this vine. There is a new growth here, and this entire vine happened. So I'm quite happy to see that. It didn't really start to grow for me until I put it in the tent. I'm not sure, is it the temperature? Because it is slightly warmer in the tent. It doesn't get a lot of light. It is on the bottom shelf, but it's still growing really well and quite fast. So I think maybe it was too cold for it. I did keep it on my heat mat, or I tried to keep it close to my heat mat when it was outside of the tent, but it really didn't grow all that much. I'm happy to see it took off. I think the leaves look lovely. I did want Hoya Mariana, which I did get, but unfortunately that Hoya died due to very long shipping. It appeared fine for a day, and then the next day it just fell apart. So I get to keep this one, and I'm quite happy. I love it. I'm trying to figure out what size comes next. This is Hoya species affinity burtoniae, and it has a lot of new growth on the top because LED light is above it, and there isn't so much growth on the sides because my window doesn't get all that much light during winter. So I actually am going to try to fit this somehow magically in my grow tent, and because I'm very curious to see if it will grow faster and it will bloom. It did not yet bloom for me, and I actually did cut off the vines that had peduncles because I gifted some of them for my friends, and I think if it's this Hoya's destiny to bloom, it will bloom despite that. So I'm hoping to see some of the blooms soon. I am maybe going to get the variegated version of this Hoya this spring, and then that one might become my favorite. The variegated version is quite beautiful, even though the new growth in this one looks amazing, I have to admit. The variegated version is just a bit more. This is Hoya brevialata. This, I have to admit, was not my favorite Hoya. The cutting that I had, I think from the original cutting we have these. There was a bit of water there. I'm not wet. It's fine. The original cutting has these leaves that are a bit damaged. It looks like some pest. I'm not really sure. So I didn't love it because I didn't like the original cutting, but I have to say the new leaves that did grow look quite cute. They are more rounded as well. The older ones are a bit elongated. I prefer the new ones. I chopped the original cutting, I think, in 3 parts. So that's why you see more of them. But this Hoya is actually very good at branching out. It's pushing out this new vine and it's coming from the base of the stem. And this vine also came from the base of this tiny cutting. It wasn't a very fast grower in the beginning. Now it did pick up and I'm really starting to like it. It kind of reminds me of a Dischidia when you look at the leaves. It often gets neglected and it does really well actually with neglect. It doesn't mind being neglected or underwatered. We are now gonna talk about 3 problematic plants. It's not their fault. They attracted some mealybugs. It's not their fault they're attractive. That reminds me, I actually forgot one Hoya. Dang it! Oh, of course I did. Where did I put that Hoya? The reason I brought this one is because I want to show you 2 Hoyas that are kind of similar. This Hoya arrived in the mix with this Hoya. This is just now in self-watering. I kind of use this to take it out because it doesn't really fit. Genius, I know. So this is Hoya Mathilde. They were potted together, but I do believe that this is Hoya Shuke. Shuke, whatever. Because this one has pubescent leaves, this one doesn't. The leaves are approximately the same, and I do know that one is supposed to be pubescent. I got this from a person who bought it. This one was always a larger cutting, this one was a smaller cutting. This one had mealybugs. I just recently cleaned it and I don't think they're coming back, hopefully. I also repotted it just to make sure to check if there are no root mealybugs. There weren't. But you can see Mathilde has this lovely splash on the leaves, which is very popular now. I see people selling this plant for much higher prices, Mathilde splash. I do have to say those are with a bit more splash, but I wouldn't pay for it, honestly, because, you know, on some of the leaves it can have more and some less. I think this could have possibly even more splash. Both are very easy to take care for. In my experience, this one grows a bit faster. This one was a bit slower, but this one got less water. So maybe that's why they're not as picky as actual serpens. They are more easygoing Hoyas for sure. So if you are struggling with serpens, I would probably consider these. Still very lovely Hoyas to have. The next one is confusing to me a bit. It also had mealybugs, which we cleaned off. This is Hoya Rosita. They say this is a cross between Hoya Wayedi and Hoya Tsangi. I'm just wondering, is it really between Tsangi or something else? It kind of reminds me of species affinity burtoniae. Some of the leaves do get a bit larger, but they're still, I would still call them smaller leaves. I mean, it's not that big, but these are the original leaves. This is a cutting I got from a friend. It's not the fastest growing for me, and it did put out some of the weirder looking leaves, and we discovered that's because of the mealybugs. I do have Hoya Wayedi as well. I didn't pick it for this one because the leaves are quite long. They are narrow, not particularly big, but if I had to pick which one I would call small-leaved Hoya, I think it would be this one. This is Hoya Sunrise. This should be a cross between Hoya lacunosa and Hoya obscura, and we do have obscura coming up. It has smaller leaves than obscura, and it has mealybugs, unlike my obscura, which is a good girl. This one isn't. Why did you attract mealybugs? I can say that this one grows really fast. The original cutting was this size, quite small, and in a matter of a month it pushed out all of this. It was really wonderful, and then I saw that it started to drop some leaves. They started to yellow and drop, and just when I picked it up today, I actually dropped another leaf. They started to kind of get deformed, and yeah, I discovered it's because it had mealybugs. And I think it's with this one that the mealybug infestation started, which is unfortunate. It was close to the Mathilde and to thomsonii. Thomsonii is also one of the Hoyas that I picked. I will show you the one that was not affected with mealybugs because the one that was is a bit far away and still didn't clean it up. Have to check it up. But yeah, Hoya Sunrise. Okay, I simply cannot wait because I mentioned that Hoya. I want to show you my obscura. I may have cheated. This isn't really small leaf. It's kind of medium. Depends who you are. I mean, some of them are small, but this is my Hoya obscura. And it definitely got lovely blush after a couple of days under the light. I think we're still on the safe side because I did hear some opinions that this sun stress, this blushing up of the leaves, can be harmful to some plants. Opinions are kind of divided. If I get a chance to talk to an expert, I will make a video about it just to have all the different opinions, and I will share my experience, of course. So let's just say this is experimental to see if the plant's health will be affected long term. I see a lot of people do it and no one mentions anything, so maybe they're not affected, but I think it looks lovely, gorgeous, amazing, beautiful, the best.
Brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique.
I mean, how can you not love it? If I get married, I want to get obscura covered shirt. That's very weird. Why would you go there? This is Hoya thomsonii, and this is the one that I got from Sweden and didn't grow the best. The one with mealybugs actually grew much faster, and I have to say they're quite different. They're getting exactly the same care, so I'm not sure why this one isn't thriving as much as the other one. The other one just more than doubled in size. This one just pushed out this, and that's, call it a day. It's a lovely Hoya with very, very, very pubescent leaves. This one is actually more pubescent than the other one, I think, or that it appears to me that way. This one actually also grew in a higher light, so you would think it would grow faster. The flower is very lovely and I cannot wait to see them, but for now, I'm just gonna put it back. This is Hoya waymaniae from Borneo, from Sweden, but from Borneo. I mentioned in one of my videos that I think this is gonna die because it only had one leaf left, and I think it's this one. This one was the only one left. They're very stiff, extremely cardboardy, stiffer than caudata really. But it pushed out first one leaf and then a couple of more are growing. These are still growing. They're much, much softer. And you can see it did blush up under the light. It's also in my grow tent and it is on the top shelf, but in the corner. So it's not under the light, but it was enough apparently because it did really, really blush up. This used to be under my 36 watt LED light. It never blushed up, but now it's actually growing much faster. And I think I see another growth point. It's amazing how this recovered. I mean, it's not huge, but this was just one leaf with a node and the cut was just right next to the node. So this is amazing recovery. Like, this is a miracle. This is Hoya memoria. I was kind of on the fence about this, should I pick it or not, but it does have smaller foliage compared to the rest of the Hoyas, especially when you compare it to latifolia, finlaysoni, meredithy, merilli, and the rest of those with bigger leaves. And it's also easy to find, easy to get, so I thought it would be a good addition. Easy to grow. This was gifted to my friend, again, as a very small cutting, and in less than a year she was able to get all of this. Some soil is falling on me. And I actually took one more cutting from this plant to propagate. It grew exceptionally well, very easy Hoya. Also does blush a bit under stronger light. It's not spectacular like some of the other Hoyas, but I think it's a nice addition to the collection. Doesn't take up much space. Mine all actually tried to bloom, but because it's hanging, I underwatered it, story of my life. It still has the peduncle, it just blasted the buds, so I think it will try again very soon. This is Hoya linearis. Used to be one of my favorites. Now it's kinda nice, it's nice. God forbid, if my house was on fire, I would not rescue this one. That's all I'm gonna say. It's nice. Easy to take care for, grows really fast. It does require a bit more water than the rest of the Hoyas, but you have to be careful to have a very good mix for that, because when it doesn't get the water, these will not look very plump. They will kind of shrivel up and start to fall off the leaves, so it will require a bit more water. And you can see evidence that I underwatered it, so don't do it. Well, I actually did cut it back a couple of days ago. I think I might cut it back a bit again, just there. I do have my Hoya retusa. My Hoya retusa that also grew from a very small cutting, just got a shower. It bloomed constantly and it still has a bunch of peduncles that are supposed to open. I think 3 or 4 times this year it bloomed. It seems to me once it starts, once it's big enough to bloom, it doesn't stop, which makes me very happy. It kind of did slow down with growth. It was a faster grower, but maybe because it's now blooming constantly, maybe that's why it slowed down. Also very easy Hoya to take care for. This one doesn't mind being neglected. I quite love the look of this Hoya. I know that some people don't, but trust me, when you see it in person, you will like it, most likely. If you don't, then your problem, but I think it's quite unique compared to the rest of them. The leaves are super small, they're very narrow. I think I would definitely keep this one probably forever. That's how much I like it, because that's very unique. There is also Hoya Bella that I have. I count that one as a smaller leaved Hoya, but mine got chopped down, so it's propagating. I was debating with myself if I should show you this or not, because I know you're gonna judge me, but trust me, it's gonna be fine because I already see new growth. This is my Hoya Bella. I chopped it because it was just one vine too long and I wanted more. It was actually in a propagation box up until today. I did a horrible job arranging them in the pot. That might change. The pot is too small because this is for semi-hydro. This cannot stay like that. But until they root really well, I'm gonna leave it. Once it roots, I'm going to move it to a larger pot. They are not dehydrated. The reason they look like this is because I have absolute zero coordination for arranging cuttings in a pot. Very easy Hoya again. It bloomed multiple times last year. I think I made a video when it had over 100 flowers. So I don't think it's gonna bloom anytime soon, but the foliage is nice. It's a spider mite magnet. I would like to get a variegated one this year, but because shipping, to me, it takes a long time. I don't think it would make it, to be honest with you. I might try depending on the price if it's not too expensive, but if it's too expensive, I'm not even going to risk it because I'm just going to be satisfied with this. I now see it has actually more growth than I noticed. So it's going to be just fine. It's going to look a bit weird in the beginning, but that's to be expected. Once I show you this plant in a couple of months, you will be amazed. And that's a promise. Okay, my favorites. Let's go out with a bang. This is my Hoya sigillatis. Lovely, lovely, lovely Hoya. Under the light, it gets gorgeous. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna come out on camera as how beautiful it is. I know it gets red, but some of the new leaves look velvety and red. I don't think there is foliage in Hoyas like that produce new foliage that's so cute, unless if you count that silver lacunosa. This leaf, absolutely gorgeous. It is in the Mars Hydro tent, under the light, on the second level of the shelf, like I showed you in the video. Much faster growth than before. I think it's warmth and abundance of light that did it. 36 watt LED light didn't do this. It was 30-40 centimeters away from that light, but even in what I consider a lower light area of that grow light, somehow it seemed, I think maybe our eyes cannot detect light as well, I'm not sure, but it's clearly more than enough to make this Hoya blush, which didn't happen under what I considered was a higher light, what my eyes considered was a higher light, the 36 watt LED lamp. So yeah, wonderful Hoya, so easy. The roots I noticed today have grown outside of the pot. Fantastic. Did I sing that? No control. I have 4 or 5 more Hoyas. This is also a Hoya that I think is very unique. This is Hoya rotundiflora from Sweden. This is the original cutting here, so it only grew this. I got it in June last year. This Hoya is supposed to be much faster grower. I think mine was underwatered for sure for a long time. I think now it's going to start to grow a bit faster because I did give it an appropriate size pot and a trellis. I'm gonna try to grow it on a trellis. I kept going back and forth. Do I want it to grow as a hanging plant or on a trellis? I decided trellis because hanging plants in me, as we learned, not a good idea. I hope it starts to grow faster. I'm not sure if this is, I mean, my friend did tell me She has this Hoya. She says that it grows really fast for her. So I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you have rotundiflora. How fast does it grow for you? Maybe it needs more warmth, more light, I'm not sure. It's not bad. It did grow some, but I don't know, maybe I was expecting it to be much larger. But very cute, unique leaves, very cute foliage, I think. This is Hoya fitchii. It does have a tiny peduncle. I'm gonna try to show you with a B-roll. And it does have this leaf, the big one. You don't belong here. Let's look at these. These are smaller. Those are the reference leaves. Don't look at that. That's not a reference point. The leaves are also very decorative. They have whitish or maybe light green veining on them, and they do get a bit red under the light, but you can see that it's not enough to get them more red. I'm very surprised that this already produced a peduncle. It doesn't mean that it will flower as soon as it produces a peduncle, but seems so far that it might. The flower on fitchii, in my opinion, is gorgeous. So if it does bloom, I'm going to be extremely happy. Easy Hoya to grow, easy Hoya to trellis, which has become an issue for me. And it doesn't take up much space. I think it's great. This Hoya is similar, maybe in appearance, to fitchii. I got this under the name Hoya Affinity Chuniana PNG6. Now, I'm not clear why, because you have Hoya Chuniana PNG6, so if this is similar, which is what affinity means, or comparable. If this is similar to affinity, I think they should call it Hoya species affinity, just like you call Hoya species affinity burtoniae. I think there should be Hoya species affinity Chuniana PNG6. Lovely Hoya. Leaves do vary a bit. Some of them get a bit longer, but most of them do stay very small. It has this prominent veining on the leaf. Underside also gets reddish. I did spot a tiny peduncle right there. I'm gonna try to get a close-up. And I also found a hack. Sometimes it's very difficult to find the hair clips, for me at least, that are very affordable. And you sometimes have to use several per Hoya. So I twisted the paper clip to kind of make sure this Hoya stays up. And it doesn't even press, you see, it's like there is still a lot of room there. So just kind of holds it gently. I think it's genius. I mean, of course, I invented it. I have to admit, I did not like this plant when I got it. I was expecting that it was larger. I didn't know how small the leaves were because the photos don't really show all that well. But now I do love it. I count it as one of my favorite Hoyas, really. And it should be yellow when it flowers. That's what the photos on the internet show for this particular species. We will see. I cannot wait to find out. I hope that this time it does flower. It tried to flower before, but it didn't make it because I underwatered it, yeah. This one is Hoya patella pink. Absolutely love this plant. The new growth, stunning. It has brownish tint to it, kind of goldenish sometimes. It depends on the light. It is a fairly fast grower. I got it again in June or July. It was this small of a cutting, so all of this is a new growth, and it would have been much larger. It was in a small pot, so it kind of trellised around another hanging plant, so I had to take it down. And when I took it down, it kind of stopped growing. It didn't love that. But now it continued. As you can see, a wonderful Hoya. The blooms are stunning. I can't wait to see it bloom. Why am I using stunning all the time?
Well, I am stunned. Just stunned. Stunned is the only way to describe how stunned I am.
The blooms are very beautiful. It did try to flower one time and it blasted the peduncle, and I didn't underwater it, so I'm not sure why. I think it's supposed to be easy to bloom, so maybe now we can expect to see some buds on it show up. I do detect something that could be a possible bud, but let's not get delusional. Let's just not put any pressure on the plant. This one grows fast, so you might need more space than you think, despite it being a fairly small leaved Hoya. The last one for today, and everyone is like, thank God, is Hoya flagellata. It also pulled a trick on us. It produced this. It's like, what are you doing? Why is this so much larger than this one? Don't look at this. Not part of the story. Overall, it produces small leaves, Hoya flagellata. It did bloom. You can see here it bloomed in December, 31st of December. The original cutting is this, and actually pushed two more leaves, and then it pushed out this new vine. This leaf grew recently, and I can see it's continuing to grow, and I think it's starting a new vine here, so it's good at branching out. It never died back, the tip never died back, even though I trellised it. Sometimes when I trellis them, the tips die back, even when I'm careful not to touch the tip. I never do. I always make sure to grab it somewhere here, but some Hoyas refuse to be trellised in my case. I don't know why. But this one is quite nice, behaves nicely, flowered, very easy to take care for. I think the only important thing is not to let it completely dry out. I know some people claim it should dry out. I never let mine dry out. Cannot wait to see it bloom again. I think the blooms are lovely. Can't remember if they smell like something. I think they do have a nice faint smell. I did record a video of it blooming, but it was my first attempt at a vlog, so I thought maybe it would be a nice addition to add like blooming vlogs, but didn't work. I'm not good at it. In my video when I talked about Hoya names, I said that flagellata is not accepted name, and that does show in the QZ database. However, I was told that Mikkel, Rhoda, and Natalie Simonson do consider flagellata to be separate, which would make sense because flagellata blooms at night, caudata blooms during the day. So that's the first difference that I know of. My caudata didn't bloom, so when it does, maybe I can compare the flowers. Not that I will come to any conclusion, I'm not a botanist. Just keep your tag. It's still not official. I'm gonna call it flagellata, but in the Q records, so far it is considered a caudata. By the way, this is flagellata TN 99024. It was collected by Toral Nyhouse in 99. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you enjoyed seeing the tiny Hoyas. Not all of them are small. Some of them are a bit, striving to be bigger, or at least they're trying to push the limit of the leaves. Let me know down in the comments below. I want to know several things. First, which of these Hoyas that I showed to you is your favorite? Second, do you prefer small-leaved Hoyas or large-leaved Hoyas? Let me know. I would like to find out. For me, personally, right now I think I'm preferring the small-leaved Hoyas. They take up far less space. The leaves, to me, are cuter. Yes, big-leaved Hoyas are kind of like a statement piece, but how many can you have? If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, you know what to do. I also now have a Patreon page, and the link to that will be in the description below. I hope you're having a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye! I would like to take some time to thank my patrons. A big shout out to my $5 patrons: Betsy Begonia, Bonnie Harris, Hoyas and Whatnots, Kathy L., Kelsey Jager, Mary, Melissa Walker, Nicole Ferranti, Vicky Dingler, Therese Gottman, Tom Ibbotson, Zloko Pniponi, and Anonymous. Also, a big thank you to my $3 patrons: Angelina Farnan, Becca Panyard, Brianna Phillips, Catherine G, Freehid Ian Osk, Anna Home, Nikki, and Ringlob. And a thank you to my $1 patron, Jacinta. I hope that you all are enjoying the videos. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to me, and I will see you soon.